What is up, guys? Welcome back to Half-Land Performance Videos. So today, I don't know if you guys remember, but I mentioned it in the last video. We actually have a customer 600 to 800 horsepower J35z6 engine build going into an 07 to 08 Acura TL Type S. Here it is. So I just kind of wanted to run over some basics on the bottom end. What I decided to show you guys today is just how to install the crank, the main caps, oiling, like what oils we prefer to use, or what lube, what assembly lube, torque on the main caps, bearings and stuff like that. Now we've already measured out the main bearings, all the clearances and everything, so we're just going to slap them in there. But for the most part, guys, you do want to either do plastic gauge or measure them out with a dial bore. So it's really up to you. So touching a little bit on what I just mentioned there about dial bore versus plastic gauge, we never, let me get back around here. We never use plastic gauge. We have in the past, and we've always double checked our bearing tolerances or specs against the dial bore. So we use the dial bore. Let me show you guys here. I don't know where it's at. Actually, let me get it out. So this is a dial bore. You have different attachments, different fittings, and different shims to get your thickness. But basically, this measures down to the 10,000ths. So it's 0.0000, 4 zeros. This is what we prefer to use to get the cylinder or the bearing clearances, along with checking the cylinder roundness, seeing if they're out of round or not. Now, others have used plastic gauge, and I've seen them actually come out within spec and very, very close. It's not down to the 10th thou, but it is, you know, roughly 5/10,000ths off. So it would be 0.0005 off of what the dial bore gauge is. And when you're talking clearances, and especially high horsepower motors, you're going to want to go dial bore all day. And then you're also going to need a micrometer. Now they have digital micrometers that, if you get a very, very high-end one, they're accurate, but I suggest the manual or the dialogue ones that are just numbers and you just spin it. You can research it and look it up, but I found some of the electronic ones are not all that accurate, especially down to the thou. And here's the digital micrometer that I was talking about, you guys. So you can go down to millimeters and it becomes a little more accurate, but here you see it's down to the 10th thou. So it's already reading off here, but obviously you can zero that out. So this is a pretty high-end micrometer. As you can see, 0.0, 3 zeros, and then a 5. That's down to the 10,000ths. And this is what we like to use, along with double checking the dial bore gauge. These are the two instruments that you're going to need to measure bearing clearances properly. You're really not going to want to use plastic gauge. You can look up online. There's tons of help sections on how to measure bearing clearances with a dial bore and with a micrometer or micrometer, however you want to say it. And micrometer or micrometer and a dial bore is by far the best way to measure your bearing clearances. So to start out, guys, I always go this route. Brand new gloves, brand new roll of paper towels, lint free if you can. These shop towels that you can buy at any auto store usually do very well if you spray a lot of like carb cleaner, because carb cleaner also comes in very handy. So you're going to need a shitload of carb cleaner, probably like 4 to 5 bottles is usually what we use. We use a Performance Ultra Black gasket, but that's for later. That's putting on, you know, the oil pump and other shit. Shop towels, clean gloves, and like I said, carb cleaner and lube. So as I mentioned, guys, I have to stress, you got to start clean gloves, because everything in this motor, especially on the inside, on the interior of it, you want to keep it nice and clean. If you start out with dirty gloves, you're gonna have dirty parts. So as everything, guys, you want to work top to bottom. So what I like to do, I like to spray out all the cylinders, make sure we get all the cylinders cleaned out, get any dirt or debris off the deck, spray out the holes. All right, so just keep Obviously just keep doing this, repeat it, work around, start with the top, tip it over, spray upside down as well. And I hope you guys can see it. It's important to get those little journals right there too. You see where I'm spraying? Hopefully you can see it. But this is why we spray everything down, because obviously gravity, shit drips downhill, so shit rolls downhill. It's going to be the same process here. We're going to flip it over and then respray and just keep working it. And guys, that is the crank. I'm not worried about it because it's going to get the same treatment as this. All right, once you got the top all sprayed off, you're going to do the same here on the bottom. You're going to want to make sure you get these main journals. So these are the crank journals, guys. This is where the bearings go here, crank sits in there, and that's where it spins. All right, the snout of the crank is coming out here, the back end is over here. You're going to want to get all up in those journals, make sure you get them all out. We also like to spray into the main cap bolt holes. Make sure no debris and shit's in there. But for the most part, you're gonna want to focus on these main caps. Do that, tip it over, let the shit drip out, and then keep spraying. All right, now hopefully, let's just assume you guys have already measured out all of your bearing clearances. I'm going to show you guys where the thrust washers go. So these are the thrust washers. These, you're going to see here, this is going to be the snout side of the crank. This is going to be the back side, all right? This is going to be where all your pulleys, water pump, and everything is. You're going to have the snout of the crank out here. These thrust washers, these little ridges right here, or these cutouts, go on the outside like that. So it's smooth side in, and you can see that little indentation right there where this doesn't have it. So it's pretty clear where they go, but they go right there. All right, so they would sit like that. Those need to be installed first, and then you can start installing the bottom bearings for the main bearings on the bottom. But first, you're going to want to do the same treatment as we did before. Carb clean everything. So right now I'm not too concerned if these parts are dirty or dusty. I mean, it's a pretty clean shop, but you're always going to get a little dirt or debris. So like I said, I don't worry about it. I make sure when I'm installing it, every single part that we install gets cleaned. It gets carb cleaned, looked over, carb cleaned again, and then installed. All right, and then just make sure they're even on both sides. What I like to do, I just like to put my finger there like that, finger there like that, make sure they're even. So that's that. All right, next part is to put the main bearings, the bottom bearings down first. Technically it would be the top because the motor's flipped over, but you guys get what I'm saying. So this is pretty self-explanatory, guys. Being I pulled the thrust washers. I can't talk today. Being I pulled them from here, we know this is going to be the second cap in from the back side of the crank. So this is going to be the snout side. Basically, it would rotate like this to go over to the engine. So this is going to be the first cap we're going to install on the left. This is going to be the second, and so forth. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to do it off camera. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start installing the bottom main bearings. I'm going to spray them off like I always did, install them, and then I'm going to put the assembly lube on. And to show you guys real quick, you see this little tab here. It aligns with the tab in the block. So what you want to do to install, you basically want to do a rocking motion. You set this in first. You want to get it somewhat even, level down, and you make sure that tab goes home like that. And then the same thing as you did here with the thrust washers, making sure your thumbs are even, you do the same here. If it needs to be pushed over a little bit, you just make sure they're even like that, and they're good to go. And then continue down the road. And like I said, guys, carb cleaner, back of the bearing, front of the bearing, or bottom and top. And also with these guys, like I said, they are lint free, but I found if they get degraded with a lot of carb cleaner or some type of chemical, they start to fray, and then they'll fray off. But they are lint free. And what we use for the cylinders, we actually don't use these. We use coffee filters. Not sure if you've ever seen it online or on like YouTube videos or references, guys. It's what we've always used, and guys, they are so handy. They're super cheap, and we use ATF, automatic transmission fluid, and we use coffee filters for the cylinders. But we're not there yet. We're just concentrating on the crank right now, the main bearings, the thrust washers, and all that. Shit, I totally forgot. So like I said, whenever these get degraded a lot, they do start to fray. So what I do, guys, I don't wipe with these. I dab. I just dab shit. And that prevents any fray from coming off like this and sitting in the motor, because that amount, make sure that gets down there, that amount of material, that little piece of lint right there, if it gets stuck between the bearings, it will throw off your clearances. It will start to fuck shit up. And if you guys were wondering, no oil or lube needs to go down here. Those go in dry, because you don't want this bearing to spin in there. It's not spinning, it's sitting there, so you don't need to lubricate the backside of the main journal. And just set it in there, guys. Snap it in, make sure it's bottomed out, and then use your thumbs to even them out. Look down there, see that guy's a little high right there. That's good. This guy's a little high there. All right, the bearings in there, guys. It's time to lube. Make sure your hands are clean, which they should be. Open an assembly lube. Clean your hand again, and just lube these on, guys. We like to be pretty, we like to make sure they're well lubed up, guys. You really can't put too much lube on there, because obviously on the first startup you're gonna want these to be protected. So once you have all of your main bearings lubed up, like I said, guys, we use Redline. We've always used Redline, and that's what I prefer to use. You may think that the crank is ready to go in. It is not. So what you want to check for, guys, you see these 3 holes right here, 1, 2, 3. Those are piston oil squirters. That is these things right here, piston oil squirters. As you can see, it has a tiny little pinhole here, and it feeds up into these 2 spouts, which feeds 2 different cylinders, and you have 3 of them. So in an effort to offer, you know, another product, guys, we came out with our Halferland. Oh geez, what's going on there? We came out with our Halferland Honda Acura oil squirter plug bolts. We've looked everywhere, guys. The only option we found were titanium, and they're about $45+ per set. We made ours out of 304 stainless steel, and it's coming in at half the cost, if that, guys. So obviously it's an oil squirter. It's just a plug, guys. It's really not getting that much tension put on it. It's not getting that much load. It's literally just plugging in an oil port. So we use 304 stainless, which is actually one of the hardest stainless steels that you can get, most durable. And like I said, it's about half the cost of titanium, and that's what we're going to use. So before we put the crank in, I'm going to go ahead and install our Halferland Honda Acura oil squirter plug bolts. And they are available on our store right now for purchase, HondaJSeriesEngine.com. Different engine builders, but we like to use the red label, the high temperature thread sealant from Permatex. For these, it's basically Loctite, but it's the high temp, because obviously these are going to be sitting in the motor. You don't want it to heat up, become loose, and then obviously fall out and destroy your bottom end. So we use the high temp thread sealant and locker for these. So I think what I said last time on the last clip might have been a little confusing, guys. We use thread sealant. We don't use thread locker. Now the thread sealant will also lock in the bolts pretty well, but once they're in there, guys, they're really not going to come out, especially with thread locker or thread sealant. The reason we like to use the sealant is because obviously these are meant to plug the holes. You don't want to leak, or you're going to have lower oil pressure if you just have this port just spitting oil out. So we use the thread sealer, which also helps lock it in. Hope that was helpful. Now you guys can use both the blue Loctite, or you can use the thread sealant like we do, but we prefer the high temp sealant. And like I said, you can also use the blue Loctite. So I'm just gonna apply the sealant. You want to be pretty generous with it, guys. Set it in there. Try not to disturb your bearing lube. And I just get it started. See, I already got some on me, but it's just from the side, so we're good there. And just do this, and I believe they're 12 or 14 foot-pounds on the oil squirter plug bolts. I need to confirm that. I don't know offhand, but I'll let you guys know. For our Halferland Honda Acura oil squirter plug kit, it's going to be a 13 mil head size, and I actually wanted to show you guys this. I accidentally knocked one of the thrust washers off. So what you guys can do, you can actually put a little bit of assembly lube on the back side and put it back on, and that will help it stick, because I accidentally just barely knocked it and it fell off whenever I was installing. Honestly, I should have installed the oil plug bolts first and then did all the bearings, but hey, sometimes you do shit backwards. Okay, I told you I gave you the torque spec on these. So first, I like to install everything on the engine with hand tools, guys. Never use an impact when installing. Impact is for removing. That's it. If you ever see somebody using an impact to build a motor or install parts, I mean, sometimes you can use it to install different parts, but building a motor, you should never be using a fucking impact, guys. So I'm going to torque these down, or I'm going to spin these down by hand, and then the torque spec on our bolts is 12 foot-pounds. So each one needs to go to 12 foot-pounds, and we're going to use a torque wrench for that. Go ahead and get your torque wrench set to 12. We're actually going to 13. We're just going to go 1 pound-foot over, because 1 foot-pound is not going to hurt. There's 13 right there. Double check. Beautiful. And guys, when you're torquing down, you don't want to go stop. You want to do one fluid solid motion to get that snap on the torque wrench, because it can throw it off if you go slow and then snap. You just want to do one solid motion then snap. All right, we got all of the oil squirter plugs, our Halferland oil squirter plug kit installed, torqued it to 13 foot-pounds. With this thread sealer or thread locker, whichever you guys prefer. Now it's time to install the crank. As we did with the entire block, guys, you're going to want to make sure it's completely sprayed off. You see the crank leaning over here. It's not hurting anything. You want to make sure you don't ever lay it on the actual journals right there. So we did end up getting these this entire crank polished, so it is good to go, guys. So first you want to get it polished, because it will remove a minuscule amount of material. If you are going to polish the crank, you get it polished first, then you spec out or you clearance your bearings. You never do it the other way around, because they're going to end up being on the hair Y side. So like I said, guys, you're going to want to do exactly what we did to the block. You want to make sure you spray all the journals off. Anywhere the bearings will be riding on the crank, you want to make sure there's zero dust or debris at all. And something else I did want to touch on, guys, is whether or not to plug the oil squirters. So usually in daily drivers, I say no, don't do that. But the thing is, this customer's engine is a 600 to 800 horsepower daily driver, and I plugged them. Now, why did I plug them? Because he's going to be getting our Halferland J32, J35 Hyper Pistons. And what those have, those actually have they have an anodized dome. They're hyper-electric, which means it's a different alloy. It's a very high silicone alloy. Now, there are people out there, and I believe some companies even, that are claiming our our pistons are just Chinese knockoffs or clones or some shit like that. And I try to educate people, and I try to tell them, if you read over our description on our store listing, guys, 100% you would realize that they're not. So what they claim as them being knockoff is the stamp on the dome of the piston. You'll see it reads like PGK or something like that, which is an OEM Honda code. But our manufacturer, our partner manufacturer that made them for us, first, they're a hyper-electric material, meaning they're higher silicone. They're stronger for running boost. They run cooler. On top of that, staying with the running cooler, we also anodize the dome, which hardens it and also helps it dissipate heat, so AKA runs cooler. But if you read over our description is all I can say. They are not, generic eBay or Chinese cast pistons. We manufactured them, we spec them out. And speaking back to the number on top of the dome, what that is like I said, it is a stock code for Honda, but our partner utilized those molds to make our part, because basically we wanted a plug and play, where other companies are offering 89.5 oversized pistons, where you got to pull your pistons, you trash the other ones, then you got to bore out the block, which means you literally have to remove material from the cylinders to make the pistons fit. We wanted a plug and play option where we went just a hair over OEM. So basically, as the engine gets older and wears, that's the distance that we took up. Just a hair over, guys. You're talking 10 thou, a thou, if that, not even. So he uses that mold as for our pistons, and that's why it has the top stamp on the piston dome. But they're hyper-electric, which you will not find any Chinese eBay rebranded piston offering. We offer the only boosted 800 plus horsepower guaranteed hyper-electric pistons for Honda J series, period, guys. So like I said, guys, if he wasn't running our pistons, we would leave the oil squirters in and let them do their job to cool the cylinders and cool the bottom of the pistons. Being that he's running our pistons, which already run cooler, being hyper-electric, they're made to handle boost and higher loads. On top of being anodized, we figured we will be fine plugging these up with our Halferland oil squirter plug bolts kit. As I mentioned, guys, you're going to want to make sure you clean off the crank very well. What we like to do, we like to put it on its snout, and then you can rotate it around. But you're going to want to focus on the 4 main journals, the bigger ones, not the ones that sit over here. Not the counter journals, but basically the main straight journals. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to want to make sure those are nice and cleaned off, because those are what are going to sit down into the main bearings. Once it's heavy, I didn't get it on screen, but you just want to be careful. Mind the thrust washers, and if they become like uneven or anything, guys, you can just literally put your finger back through and push them back down, get them even. And then same with the other main bearings. You're going to want to make sure that they didn't get all screwed up or anything like that, and they all look good. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to do the same for the caps. We're going to spray off all those bearings, start setting the caps down. So like I said, guys, you want to make sure that you spray off everything, because any little dirt or debris will live inside of the engine, run the chance of getting caught between the bearings, and not good. It would end up scoring all the bearings and everything. So you just want to make sure everything is sprayed off. Also, unlike this, where I went, unlike the main bearings on the block side, I went one at a time. Here, I like to make sure, obviously you want a clean work area, because you just want to be clean, guys. In general, you just want to be as clean as possible. So I made sure all this is cleaned off. Obviously that looks a little dirty, it's just a little oily from holding the main caps, but you can see how clean everything is now. The new bearings are beautiful. I like to do all these first, then lube them up, and then install them. And I'll also show you how to install the caps directionally properly. So now for the crank main caps. As I mentioned before, guys, these are directional. As you'll see here, you flip it over, you see a 4 here. That indicates the back of the crank. So it's going to be the back side of the crank, not the snout side. Snout side, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4 towards the back of the engine. And this arrow indicates which direction this cap should face. So we're going to take our bolts. And guys, Honda, the J series engine is such a great engine, and it holds up to so much power. Basically, once you get past the rods, the weak rods, the pistons, if you put, you know, light timing, a good fuel like a full E85 or a full ethanol like a race ethanol in there, and you run that, guys, and you run low combustion temps, those pistons, the stock pistons, will last quite a while. But the benefit to our Halferland pistons, as I mentioned, they're hyper eoectic, which run cooler, but also the anodized dome, it strengthens the dome and the first ringland, which takes the brunt of the combustion. And then the anodized also runs cooler. But what I wanted to mention on these, a lot of people reuse them, or no, a lot of people tend to buy new. We have always reused these, always, unless it's like a really old engine, like 200,000 miles plus. But we never get 200,000 mile engines. We always get 120,000 mile engines or lower, because we want to start with the freshest engine possible. This engine right here, I believe, had like 38,000 miles on it. Yeah, like crazy, dude. I even ran the VIN and I saw the Carfax. So we do our due diligence to make sure that we get the best starting motor possible. Was it cheap? No. This motor was like $1,200 to $1,300, but you're also getting a 30,000, 40,000 mile mint motor. So what I was going to say with these are not torque to yield bolts. Now, how do you know if you have a torque to yield bolt? The majority of the time, it's going to have steps up to where the final torque spec is. So say the manual calls for 20, 50, and then 80 being the final. That's being torque to yield. You're going in steps and you're torquing to the end. Second way to know if it's a torque to yield is if it says go to, say, 50 foot-pounds, mark it, and then go 90 degrees. That's a torque to yield bolt. These are not. These are just one single torque spec. Torque it down, that's it. So these are not torque to yield. They're not really getting a lot of pressure. Now these caps are maybe a little bit, but not really. If you think about it, it's a rotating reciprocating part. So unlike the piston and the rods, now the rod bolts, those take a lot of force. And those are torque to yield. Those are ones where it tells you to go to a certain foot-pound, then mark, then go to 90 degrees. So like I said, we have always reused these, guys. We reused them in Bertha, we've reused them in all of our 600 to 1,000 horsepower customer builds that we've had, and we've never had any issue, guys. Never. From NA to nitrous to turbocharge. But again, guys, I have to stress, we start with the freshest engine possible. So it's really your call if you want to get new bolts. There's absolutely nothing wrong with getting new bolts. Nothing. I mean, you know what I mean? You are reassuring yourself the cost. It's just a peace of mind kind of thing. But we know for a fact this engine is mint. These bolts are fine. They're not being stressed. They're not torque to yield, so we're good to go. All right. So now moving on from the bolts, what I want to say, you start lubing up. I'm actually going to go ahead and lube all of these and then put them on. But what I wanted to say is directional. You see the arrow going that way towards the snout. You would snap it on there, and that would be that. All right. All right. Once you got everything lubed up, all the main caps, you will sometimes possibly need a mallet. Go ahead and put this on so no dirt, debris gets in there. These are our bolts. Again, guys, you want to make sure the bearing is flat and straight, and it is. You want to check for the arrow. Arrow goes towards the snout, and then I will come over here. Make sure that's not no dirt or anything. All right. Make sure those caps. Make sure there's nothing on the crank. You're gonna set the bad boy down. You're gonna wanna. All right. And then what we do is we just Tap her home till you hear her bottom out. Make sure it's even. It's good there. All right, she is homed. Take the 2 bolts. And we already cleaned all the thread, guys. You guys want to make sure all the threads are cleaned off. This long one, shit, I forgot which one the long one. All right, so the long one goes through over here, and basically we just kind of get them started. So you don't want to bolt everything up until you do the rod. So basically you just want to kind of hand tight all of the main caps. All the bolts are going to be hand tight. Then you're going to do the rods. You're going to flip it over. You're going to install the rods, the pistons, torque all those down first, then flip it back over, and then do all the main caps and side cap bolts. Because if you go ahead and torque this down now and then try to put the rods and pistons on, everything's going to kind of bind up. So you want to have it a little bit of free play to install the rods and pistons first, torque those down, and then you come back and do the main caps. So now we're just going to install all the caps and go hand tight on all the bolts. I did forget to say, we like to put a small amount of oil on all of our bolts, no matter what. And you can see here, I have a Lysol bottle. It's just a spray bottle. We made sure we cleaned the shit out of it. And then I put some 1030 oil in there, and that's what I use to lube up any of the bolts that we install when assembling a motor. Because you could just literally spray it right on the bolt. Just a little spray, a little bit of dab on there. I'm good to go. These cap bolts, go ahead and give them a little bit of lube real quick. So to get them to sit in there, take it like that, take the cap bolt like this, and then you just kind of put tension outwards on them like this, and you make sure that arrow is pointed, keep that outward tension on there, and then that allows you to set them down into the crank journal properly, if I can fucking get it. It's just easier that way. There you go. And then they sit in there, make sure they align in there. And then you can wiggle it in, guys. Just like that. And then you wanna make sure they go in properly. Got a little bit to go there. Sometimes it's a really, really tight fit. Like this motor right here being so fresh and new, that's all the way down, that's all the way down. Sometimes it's a really tight fit, guys. That's why a mallet is needed or required sometimes. And I just like to triple check all my stuff, making sure it's all good. So yeah, like I said, guys, you just use these as you just pull out, and it kind of locks the cap in. And then you can set it down in there properly. All right, guys, once you got your caps on, you make sure all the arrows are going that way. You got all your side cap bolts. You got your top on there. You're pretty much set, guys. From there, you just need to, like I said, you would install the rods and pistons first, put the rods onto the crank journals, install all of them properly, torque them all down, and then you would torque down all the main caps and all the sides to the proper torque spec, which I will give you here. There's that thrust washers like I was telling you guys. So here, I don't know if you can see it, let me take this off. So right there, hopefully you guys can see that, that's the proper torque sequence right there. It's gonna go, shit, where are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then you go 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Hope you guys can see that properly. Okay, and then here are the torque specs. The top cap bolts are 54 foot-pounds, and then, or pound-feet, sorry, not foot-pounds. So the top bolts are 54 pound-feet, and then the side bolts are 36. Remember how I told you guys you'll know if they're torque yield if it gives you steps or stages for torquing them down, and then also if it gives you one torque spec and then tells you to go 90. If there's ever more than one step, it's usually a torque to yield bolt. There may be exceptions out there, but from what I found over the years, guys, and especially with the J series, if it's just a one-step torque sequence, then they're not torque to yield. So that's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, after you install the crank, or after you install the rods and pistons, that's basically it. Torque all those down, the rods, the piston, or not the pistons, but the rods, and then go back, and then you would torque down all the crank main bolts. So I hope this was helpful, guys. I know it was a little rambly because I'm trying to work on this. I got to get it out, man. The customer's been waiting forever. We've been waiting on different parts and everything to get here, and it's taken forever. But something I do want to show you guys really fast before we end this. So like I said, guys, a quick update. Pretty excited about this. We are now a dealer of the only performance timing belt on the market for the J series. Now, honestly, for the majority of the builds, you guys aren't going to require it, but if you absolutely want and you're revving high, say past 7,600 RPM to 8,000, or you're just putting a lot of load on the engine, autocross, anything like that, this is the Gates blue timing belt. I will post more about this on Instagram, but we are now, or you're just putting a lot of load on the engine, autocross, anything like that. This is the Gates blue timing belt. I will post more about this on Instagram, but we are now reselling this, or retailing this on our store, and it's the best belt you can get, the only performance J series belt that you can get, and we're going to offer it in multiple vehicle fitments. Second is the only performance head gasket on the market, which is Felpro. It's a, oh my god, I forgot what it's called, but it has a different coating on it. So along with that coating, we're also going to put what we always have, which is the copper gasket sealant, the high temp gasket sealant. We've always used that on MLS, which is multi-layered steel gaskets. We've always used the copper spray. So we're going to use the Felpro and the copper spray, but now we offer the two best possible parts in regards to their category. We offer the Gates racing timing belt for the Honda J series. Basically, I think we're going to offer it for the Gen 2, Gen 3 and up. I don't think the Gen 1, we don't have Gen 1s yet. And also for the Felpro, another thing with this, the J35z6, I would have to show you guys. I don't have it here, but if you look it up, the J35z6 from a 2012 TSX, it doesn't have all the cooling ports. It's cut off. So this would be a huge upgrade to a J35z6 engine where it cuts it off. So I don't know why they do it. I know it's to redirect cooling. I just don't know why exactly. Some people speculated hot spots, but I haven't seen that. Any J series motor is going to have staining on the front head because that head is closest to the coolant fans. So it heats up, cools down, heats up, cools down, heats up, cools down. And that's what you see staining always on the front head. If you pull the valve covers off, the front head is always going to have staining where the back is always going to be perfectly clean. That's what you're seeing. It's basically like a baking on effect. But anyways, guys, like I said, our store will now offer the two best only performance parts in their category, the Gates timing belt and the Felpro head gaskets. So keep an eye on for that on our store, guys. And I hope this was helpful. I know it was jumping around a little bit, but I hope I showed you guys how to install the crank. Next thing I'll show you is how to install all the rods, pistons, how to gap your rings properly. Hopefully I just don't say fuck it and just not do it, because it's a lot, man. It's a lot filming, you know, going back, making sure you covered everything. and then making sure you're doing the right thing on the engine. So hope you guys, I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys liked it. Check us out, HondaJSeriesEngine.com. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact us at contact@HondaJSeriesEngine.com. All right, guys, peace.